you have this new July piece about Canary Mission, which is effectively a doxing operation and a blacklist for anyone, specifically people on university campuses who would speak out for Palestine. But explain, because a lot of folks have heard of Canary Mission, but explain who they are and why they have been so dangerous in the last 6 months since Trump came to office.
Sure. So I like to describe them as an anonymous gossip blog. You're right. They are a blacklisting website, but functionally that's what it is. It's like, hey, I heard a rumor this sophomore was at this pro-Palestine march and maybe they chanted something about an intifada. And so what they say they're about is to, quote, prevent today's radicals from becoming tomorrow's employees, which means scaring critics of Israel into silence because they're afraid for their jobs. They're afraid they might get doxxed. They might get harassed on the internet. People might email their employer and say, hey, did you know this person was seen wearing a keffiyeh? It's been around since 2014 or so. It lists a few thousand people, mostly university affiliates, so professors, students, sort of an IMDb style website. And everybody on the website is being accused of being anti-Semitic. A few of the people
are on there? Sorry, just how many people?
I had an exact number in my article. It's not in my head right now, but it's like several thousand at this point. Yeah. And a few of them are actual Nazis. Most of them are random college sophomores who think that Israel should stop bombing Gaza, which I think most reasonable people would consider to be wildly different categories. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so for the better part of a decade now, they've been functioning as a blacklist, functioning as a non-governmental tactic for scaring people into silence. But very recently, we learned that the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. government, is in fact paying quite a lot of attention to Canary Mission.
Yeah, tell me about Rümeysa Öztürk. We know this is the graduate student who was disappeared by ICE. What is the connection between her case and Canary Mission?
Sure. So Rümeysa Öztürk, she co-wrote an op-ed for the Tufts daily student newspaper about a year before she was detained. That op-ed was asking the Tufts administration essentially to take a divestment resolution seriously, to divest from Israeli companies. Mm-hmm. And then about 2 months before she was detained, a Canary Mission profile goes up that says that she had engaged in anti-Israel activity. The one piece of evidence on that profile that she had engaged in anti-Israel activity was this op-ed that she co-wrote with a couple other students. And then she was a little bit nervous. She talked to some of her friends. She said, hey, I'm worried about this profile. I'm worried about what this could mean. But then she was snatched off the street by DHS agents. And her lawyers, who I spoke to, were not able to find a single reason that she was detained other than that Canary Mission profile.
Jesus.
And then shortly after she was detained, Canary Mission itself posted online, essentially taking credit. And then, third thing, a DHS memo was released that was justifying her detention, and the wording in that memo was near identical to her Canary Mission profile. So several different signs pointed to the United States government treating an anonymous gossip blog as a legitimate reason to detain students.
Yep. So, and Canary Mission took credit for Rümeysa's disappearance, correct? Yes. You say that. And so they were proud of the fact that this profile that they created about her on their IMDb gossip website then informed DHS, and then DHS's rationale for detention, you're saying just sounded like something that Canary Mission would write.
Yes.
That's fucking insane. Now, they also, because I remember there was also an organization that was adding Marco Rubio mm-hmm. when it came to the detention of Mahmoud Khalil.
Yes.
Was that Canary Mission or was that Stop Antisemitism?
So that was Beitar, I believe, or Stop mm-hmm. Antisemitism. I think it's important here to note that there is a whole constellation of these doxing organizations made up of people who are online too much. And Beitar is one of them. Stop Antisemitism is another. They have, I believe, both at various points claimed that they have some sort of in with various US government officials, and will do things like, at a politician and be like, hey guys, look at this one, go get this one.
Yo, seriously though, seriously. And they're open, like they're not afraid to say that that's what they're doing, of course, because why would you? You've got the backing of the federal government. But it like really is terrifying. I mean, I guess I want to also name that like Beitar and stopantisemitism.org are absolutely unhinged, in addition to Canary Mission. I mean, Beitar said after Zoran wins that they urge all Jews to immediately evacuate New York.
Yeah.
And then stopantisemitism.org wants to investigate Miss Rachel, the children's YouTube content creator.
And they are the reason she put out a statement that was like, guys, I am a children's YouTuber. I'm not sponsored by Hamas. Like,
right. But then what's so insidious about this is it really is about preventing, I mean, for a right-wing narrative about cancel culture, about something that you posted or said in your youth or in your college days, haunting you into the professional world and for the rest of your life. This is quite literally an outfit designed to do exactly that, but specifically on speech that they don't like, that the establishment, the administration, that pro-Israel Zionist entities, groups do not like. That is what this is doing. I mean, you can imagine like the corollary on the left, like which does not exist, would be, some mission to see, who did something racist or had a bad Halloween costume, or whatever it is, like something so silly and small, and then using that to follow them, which is already what like the right thinks that the left does, or that liberals do.
Absolutely.
And it really has, since October 7th of 2023, it's gone into overdrive because it had existed for so long. I remember when I was in school, in the early 2000s, like it was just beginning, these sort of registries of professors speaking out about Palestine. But since October 7th, 2023, really like people have lost job opportunity. I mean, not people,
absolutely.
Kids,
people
students
are experiencing real harm. Not as much harm as like the people in Gaza, of course, but I think that it is important to note that activists on American university campuses are absolutely experiencing material consequences for their speech. There was this one professor I talked to, Zachary Lockman out of NYU, who has been a target of these types of blacklists since the 80s. And he was telling me about these physical pamphlets that used to get distributed by organizations like the ADL and AIPAC. I actually tracked down a college guide of AIPAC's from 1984 that was listing, quote, campus enemies of Israel. A lot of it then, as now, was really racist, really xenophobic. I think it's important to say that, and there's no other real way to put it. The AIPAC pamphlet kept talking about, quote, foreign Arab students pushing hatred of Israel on American campuses. Presumably those students were mostly there to get their degrees, but I don't know. And anyways, I was chatting with him about all these different iterations of these blacklisting attempts, right? And what he said was that he thinks that Canary Mission, Stop Antisemitism, these groups in the Trump administration, they are getting something that they really wanted for a long time, which is to say a real listening ear with power beyond that of an employer that might deny an internship.
Sure. I mean, the power to detain people for months and months and months on end for an op-ed, for a demonstration. Let's just get to the heart of it, because I think this is the most interesting part of your Mother Jones investigation, was about who the Canary Mission is, who funds them, who's behind it. They're largely anonymous, but you did trace a couple of foundations that had given money to them that sort of like, once exposed to the light kind of scurried away, and we're like, no. Could just tell us, how anonymous are they? What is their relationship to like being open with like who runs them, who funds them?
Sure. So I got into a lot of learning more about nonprofit law than I wanted to reporting this. I learned that it is neither registered as a for-profit or nonprofit entity in the US. Or there is an organization that several previous media reports basically classified as a shell organization for Canary Mission, that it is an Israeli registered nonprofit called MAGA Shalom, which translates to peace trends. That has been known for a few years and still seems to be the case. We know that there are several relatively high-profile family foundations and philanthropists that have been funding Canary Mission through MAGA Shalom. This is traceable through both American tax records and the Israeli nonprofit registry. The Helen Diller Family Foundation is probably the most well-known. I believe the Forward were the first people to report on that. And they said they weren't donating to Canary Mission anymore after that came out, which I think is sort of interesting, right? That there are these relatively well-respected, like, philanthropic groups that will donate this kind of thing. And then once somebody's like, hey, what's that about? They're like, never mind, never mind. And yeah, so
I mean, it is like it's not even like lightweight Zionist. Like, it's not even like, oh, we're building understanding between Israelis and Palestinians, and we're not going to talk about the occupation. It is full on doxing campaign.
Yeah.
We get now we get people disappeared. Before we get people fired.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so all of this means they don't have any known listed American employees. The man who is listed as running MAGA Shalom on the Israeli nonprofit registry is named Jonathan Jack Ian Bash. He is a British Jerusalem resident. There was another person identified as a board member of MAGA Shalom that we actually managed to get on the phone, named Rabbi Ben Packer, who used to be a campus rabbi in North Carolina, now runs a right-wing ideological hostel in the occupied territories.
Oh my God.
Proudly claims to be friends with Stephen Miller, who is Trump's deportation policy boss. We got him on the phone, found his number on WhatsApp, and just kind of called him up. And he said he had never heard of MAGA Shalom, which does contradict his name being on their documents, whatever. And also was like, yeah, I am absolutely good friends with Stephen Miller. I'm proud of his work. I think he's a good American. He did deny affiliation with Canary Mission, but said they were doing good work. So it's this whole bizarre little web.
Right. And my favorite is you'd also document how they really think that their anonymity is important and they don't want to like say who they are. And it's like, oh, really? Yeah. Organization that doxes other people and makes sure that their employers or their families or their universities like know that they're like, oh, you want privacy? You want privacy. Yeah. And it reminds me, it's funny that what the rabbi said reminds me of her name is escaping me, but Biden's former anti-Semitism czar, like anti-Semitism sort of a leader on anti-Semitism or global anti-Semitism like this, who openly made beeper jokes related to the, Israeli attack on, Hezbollah / citizens in Lebanon using beepers. But she also was asked for comment about the vast detention of student protesters. And she said, well, I basically to the same degree, like, I don't think it's necessarily legal, but I don't necessarily think it's like a terrible thing. Like you have to make sure, she basically said you have to go through legal procedures, but effectively silencing these folks is okay. That was fucking Biden's lady.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that any of this particularly originates with Trump. I think that a lot of it has certainly intensified under his administration, but I don't think that the doxing, harassment, and silencing of pro-Palestine students originated under Trump at all. That was stuff that Biden's administration allowed to happen, and in many cases tacitly or explicitly encouraged. So I think that when people talk about, oh, Trump's crackdown on free speech, it's like, well, you can't give the guy all the credit, like this is bipartisan.
I mean, it's very much just like immigration. I think Palestine is very much the loading of the gun being done by Biden and shooting it or continuing to shoot it being done by Trump. I don't think we would see ICE disappearing, obviously students, but you're absolutely right that like when you allow so much of this to fester or you equate anti-Semitism with speaking out against genocide, it's like this is the slippery slope. This is what happens. Anything else you want to add? I mean, because my big question for you, I guess my last one is, where does Canary Mission go from here? Because it seems like I mean, I know Doge was like a random creation, but Canary Mission feels like it is very much being folded into DHS, like that this could continue and or get even more robust in terms of naming people, doxing them, detaining them, deporting them.
So I can't predict the future. Here are some of the things that I know. I know that Canary Mission is absolutely being used by the Department of Homeland Security to interrogate people at the border, to find people that they might consider deportable. I think that there are also legal organizations planning to push back against this, looking into class action lawsuits. So that's something I'm going to be following, whether that is able to achieve much or not. I think that it's entirely feasible that the administration could just sort of keep going in this direction. I also think, though, that among the American people at large, it's becoming more and more common knowledge that this is not a serious website. And I think that matters as well. In that, I was actually put on Canary Mission in college, and at that time, nobody had heard of it. And when they looked at it online, it looked quite legitimate, right? Mostly because their web design is pretty nice. They look like a serious website. And so you have to kind of like look deeper and learn more about what they're doing in order to be like, yeah, wait, no, this is not like an organization that is an unbiased purveyor of truths about radical students. And so I think that public opinion around Canary Mission is shifting in a direction of treating the site with the minimal level of legitimacy that it deserves. However, I think that things governmentally are going the other way, which is worrying.
Yeah. I mean, I think to the specific thing that you do, which is in media and covering this, it really is on, I mean, you've got the New York Times just a couple months ago doing a whole, an article on Miss Rachel, and then very uncritically citing stopantisemitism.org as if it were some sort of, I mean, sadly, even the ADL is a very unserious place to actually talk about anti-Semitism because of the way that it conflates it with anti-Zionism. And so I think what you're doing is brilliant. And that's what's important, is to be like, these guys are absolute clowns. No one should be citing them. And hopefully going forward, other outlets don't try to cite, Canary Mission or otherwise. And, Mahmoud Khalil, $20 million lawsuit against the Trump administration for his detention. So we will see. This is like every day learning I didn't even talk about it, but like the new conditions, reports about conditions of detention in Florida, reports about the way the Venezuelans were treated in Sitkot who've now been freed. Like, you're like, the number of like high crimes and like human rights violation, lawsuits that are coming at this administration. I fucking hope we live to see the day where some of the folks who've done this actually suffer the consequences. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.